Thank you, everyone, and welcome to another Reltio Community Show. My name is Chris Detzel, and today's topic is Reltio name cleansers for matching. So today we have a special guest, and it's funny because Gino's been on a lot of these shows, but I think this is the first time you've presented, Gino, right?
I think that's right. I made a lot of comments. I've answered a lot of questions in the chat, but this is, I believe, the first time that I am presenting too.
Well, we appreciate you doing this. We know you're full of great knowledge, and so on that, please keep yourself on mute as usual. All questions should be asked in the chat, or feel free to take yourself off of mute. Again, this will be recorded and posted to the Reltio community. My hope is to have this done by Friday or so. So we do have some upcoming shows. Today's session is Reltio name cleansers for matching. I know a lot of people are very interested in this topic. We do have Google coming on next week on how Google is improving their data quality. We will also have Michael Burke. He's our data quality expert in here at Reltio, and Matthew Cox. And then on November 3rd, we will have Venki, our product leader, on talking about manage your core data as a product. Certainly excited about that. It's our first time to really tackle that topic. And then on November 8th, we do have we have a case study with Click. The CDO there will be talking about driving Click's MDM program, and his name is Joe DeSantos. And then we also have Takeda going to be talking about their data quality management commercial pharma MDM landscape. So we get a lot of stuff coming up, and I have a couple more that I'm scheduling for the rest of late November into December. So
yeah, I know these are going to be super duper interesting, but the one with Joe on November 8th, I think, is going to be super duper great. He's got a lot of experience with different MDM technologies, and he's just a great presenter.
No, he is, and I've seen this case study already, so it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of weird. All right, Gino, on to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Gino Fortunato. I know there's some Reltio people on who know me, but for those who don't, I have been in the MDM space for a very, very long time. I think it's on 20 years now. And I started off in the consulting area, and I knew, I did a number of global implementations. And over the years, I switched into a pre-sales role. And then about 6 years ago, Reltio came and recruited me. And I got to be honest with you, I was a little skeptical. I was at one of the big companies, and my boss loved me, my boss's boss loved me, my boss's boss's boss loved me. But I did notice that all the people that I knew in the MDM space, people like Dan Gage, who's on the phone today, Steve Singleton, had gone to Reltio, and I didn't really understand why. And then they showed me the demo, and I went, holy smokes. And as Dan was giving me that demo, I was mentally writing my resignation letter. And it's been almost 6 years now, and I've never looked back once. So really, really happy to be presenting to you today. Our topic today is going to be the name cleansers for Reltio matching. And our agenda is going to be, what are name cleansers? Why are they useful? What do we actually do with them? And then another significant piece is going to be how they're configured. So we'll spend time on both of those. So, let's dive into, what is a name cleanser? Why do we care about that? Why is it that we're here today? So Reltio has 3 types of cleansers for matching. One is the name cleanser. Second one is a string replacement, and the third one is this noise removal. And I just want to go to the documentation. There's a link in the documentation in my presentation. I'm just going to that page. I think there's actually some interesting information here that I want to talk about, right? So name cleansers activate and control synonym matching, words that are the same. And, all three of these are only within the matching framework and don't actually change the data. So I think, this piece down here is really important to understand. What we're talking about today with these name cleansers happens kind of in the background. There's no way to actually see what's happening with the data, through the UI. The UI is not affected at all, and that's compared to the email and phone cleansers, for example, where you actually do see data changing, right? And the one we're going to be talking about today, the name cleanser, is a standalone cleanser that you enable with cleanse elements within the match rule, and so we'll be seeing that in the configuration. Okay, so what is it that a name cleanser does, right? How does how does Reltio know that Benedict and Ben are the same for matching purposes? How do we know that Robert and Bob are the same for matching purposes? How do we know that Maggie and Margaret or names like that are the same? And the answer is that there's this name dictionary cleanser. The name dictionary cleanser has some good documentation. It talks about how it works. There's a file that's uploaded, and it can be called directly through the match rule builder. And the configuration looks like this. The configuration is a little ambiguous because it doesn't tell you where it goes. I have a slide with that we'll talk about in a second. And right at the bottom of this are two files. One is the name of the file that Reltio put out originally, if you look at the date 2012, when Reltio was brand new. And then this file got updated in 2020. These links are broken right now. If you've noticed, we've updated our documentation portal just last week, and a couple of the links are broken. These are broken. I put in a note to have them fixed, but you can see, unlike other matching technologies, you can see exactly what's built into this to say, hey, Bob is Robert, or whatever, or if you're seeing use cases that are being missed, whatever, you can go here into the documentation and see actually the files that are being used, so you can see what they are, see if they meet your needs, see if you can do other things about that. So how are these rules configured, right? So we saw here in this, the configuration looks like this with this cleanse, but where in the match rule does the cleanse go, right? That's the ambiguous part here that's not really helpful. And so what I've done is I've put it into the context of a whole match rule into the JSON for that. So it's under the rule into the cleanse. If you've already created one of these, where is my data modeler? Oops. Right. If I go back over here to my match rules, if I go to the data modeler and look at this match rule, it shows you the JSON because unfortunately the data modeler does not yet support these cleansers themselves. So since it's not, it goes into advanced mode where you can see this. But again, you can see it's the cleanse, and you don't need to do this because this is the same thing exactly that I have in the screenshot, which will be distributed. Okay, so the first one, if you just want to use the 2012 cleanser, the only thing you need to do is say that you want to use a cleanser. That's the one that's there by default, and it's perfectly fine, and it works as advertised, right? So if I go over here and look at a particular profile, the cleanser is working on the first name. It's seeing that we've got Irvin, IRV, is matching with win, W-I-N. And we can see the rule here is this first rule: exact first name, last name, exact or null email. So notice that I've said exact, and these are different because after the cleanser, they are exactly the same, right? So again, you don't get to see what the cleanser does, but what's happening in the background is that Reltio is normalizing this win to be the same as urban. And that's why this rule is firing. Any questions about that so far?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
If the second, again, here in the documentation, it talks about there's some different, this adapter parameter is needed if you want to use the modified file. I would always recommend to use the modified file. We're working on some product developments. I'm making sure that in every case I can that we use the modified file, because the modified file is much bigger. I was planning to open them up, but since the documentation link is not there, or it's not working properly at the moment, I can't do that. I should have downloaded the files first, but the modified file from 2020 is almost twice as large as the Cinnamon file from 2012.
Hey, Gino.
Again, they might not have take care of.
Yeah. A couple of questions. Sorry, maybe I wasn't speaking up, but does this also work for like country, city names? So, like country, cities are written differently based on language?
You'd have to. So the files that we give you out of the box are focused on first names. The concept can be, so let me go back to the JSON here. The concept is universal. So in the configuration, right, you are calling out the mapping of what field you're cleansing. So what attributes being cleansed. So you could do this for city names or something like that. You'd have to come up with your own file to do that. And that's going to involve a ticket because this file is going to get uploaded in behind the Reltio firewall.
Okay. Are there any?
You could do it for that, but the burden is going to be more on you to come up with the data for that.
Got it. So a couple more questions. Are there any plans to make some like non-English synonym list available? So the current synonym list only has English names and nicknames.
Yeah, the modern file, it does have some I'll say more European names, but it's definitely Western world related at the moment, right? South Asia, Middle Eastern, Eastern European, North Asian names definitely do not get, are definitely not the focus of this file. I don't know of our specific product plans around that, but I don't think we've seen that much demand for it yet, which is probably the reason why it hasn't been done. But if somebody has a file and wants to share it with us, I think that'd be pretty easy for us to modify.
Great. Will it turn a potential match into an automatic match?
So in a rules-based match, right? It's not going to, in a rules-based match, if I go back here to the data modeler, right? In a rules-based match, you have determined what the outcome of the match rule is here, right? So it can't change it there. The place where that could happen is in relevancy-based matching. And I believe, I can see a scenario where the score is enhanced, because of this. So it becomes, something that without this cleanser, Robert versus Bob, that would not be a very high match just on the strings, the way the relevancy-based matching works out of the box. But with this cleanser, Bob becomes Bob, and that becomes 100% match. So I could potentially see that this could boost the score a couple points, which may push the rest of it from a potential match to a automatic match. But it would only be with relevancy-based rules.
Yeah, one last question for now is, other products allow administrators to add to the list. Any plans for that you know of?
We will get to that in a second.
Okay, great. And then there's comment, I think, it says Western names like German, for example, have special characters as well. So he puts those examples in there.
Yep. And then
Thanks.
and also, we're not talking about it today, but and Dan Gage, I don't know if you want to come off of mute, but I think the matching engine ignores the special characters, right?
It sees them as equivalent, yeah. So the E with an accent and the regular E are going to be seen the same in tokenization.
Yeah, I think. Okay.
All right, thanks, Gino.
Let's see now. So here it is with the just to talk about what the configuration looks like in the rule part of the configuration. That's where you insert that cleanse. And in this case, I'm calling out the dictionary name 2012. If you want to use the new one, which again I highly recommend, it's in exactly the same spot. But in this cleanse adapter, you put in that the where you want it is, you put the 2020 value in there. Okay. If we look at the second cleanser, so this one is, this one was matched with the standard cleanser. I look at a different record. This one matches with the advanced cleanser. So here, Yazamin is matching Yazzie. And so that's data from the 2020 cleanser as opposed to the 2012 cleanser. This one would not have matched with just the 2012 cleanser. And if I go here and look at the, here with the updated dictionary, and again, it's not supported by the rules builder. So, it's got that JSON with the 2020-09 in it. To somebody else's point, these name dictionaries are controlled by Reltio, right? We're calling them out, we dated them, whatever. You can add your own dictionary. You're not limited to Reltio and our support process. What you can do instead is say, hey, I've got, I'm focused on South Asian names, and I have a file that puts them out. The documentation talks about what that file should look like. You can file a ticket, upload it, and then point your configuration to that file if you want, right? But obviously that has a support process. That file needs to live behind our firewall, and that's why the support process is involved. We want to make sure that protecting the platform, that what you're putting up there makes sense. But suppose I need a little bit more ad hoc process, right? Suppose I need this to work with things that I'm constantly adding to, so I can't really go through the file. Or maybe like I've just started to collect names, I want to put them in there, and then at some point when it stabilizes, I'm going to create the file and give it to Reltio. What do we do in a situation like that? And that's what RDM matching is known as for. It's also known as a custom name dictionary. And there's a link here to this, using a custom name dictionary. And respectfully, I'm going to tell you to ignore this page of documentation. It talks to you a lot about stuff that is not really needed. And I'm going to show you how to do it without going through this process. What they're talking about does work, but it's much more complicated and doesn't need to be done this way. I've tried to get it fixed. It hasn't happened yet. So we're working on it. So in order to get this to use reference data management, the RDM, which is included with every Reltio deployment as matching, here's the configuration you need to do. First, you need to create a lookup in RDM. You need to create the lookup values, what the equivalency is. And I'm going to point out when we get there what this lowercase means. And then you need to configure the cleanser in the match rule, just like we configure the cleanser for the advanced matching. So what do I mean create a lookup in RDM, right? A lookup is, this name dictionary too, right? I created a lookup, and then when I have this lookup, I need to create canonical values. And so what this one is doing, for example, saying that if I see ESPN, I'm going to match it to ESPN, I'm going to match it to water, I'm going to match it to Disney, right? Now, there's no dictionary that Reltio would ever prepare for you that's going to match ESPN with Disney, and certainly not with ESPN with water, okay? Only, those are going to be kind of match rules that only apply to you. So rock, right, maybe I want to match that with, drugs and rock and roll and the Clash, right? And again, these are going to be use cases that apply only to you. And so there's no way that that's going to get productized. Now, what the second piece of this, I go back here, is these lookup, create lookup values, and the code must be lowercase. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the code, right? So this is the canonical value, but if I look at the canonical value code is this ESPN right here, right? So how do I make sure that that's lowercase? And, respectfully, the Reltio user interface does not make this easy. So if I add a new value, and note this is a value and this is the code. If I just add this here, the code is uppercase. This will not work if it's uppercase. Why will it not work if it's uppercase? I don't really know, but it doesn't. So, this is if it's not working for you, this is the absolute first thing to check, because it's not intuitive and the UI breaks it for you. So you would need to add this like this. And then if you save this, and you come back here to testing, notice you can no longer change it, at least not through the UI. So, if you want to do this through the UI, make sure that you're putting in lowercase as you're entering the value. Okay? Yes.
Are all names converted to uppercase for matching purposes? There's another question.
Matching is case insensitive in Reltio. So casing does not matter, except for in this particular piece where you're creating the RDM code. But no, uppercase matches lowercase, yeah.
Okay. And are cleansers available to convert from mixed case to uppercase and/or from uppercase to mixed case names?
There are cleansers available to do that. That's outside the scope of what we're talking about today. But okay. There are the Reltio cleansers. You can go title case, uppercase, or lowercase.
Thank you.
Okay. So, let's keep stepping through this configuration here, right? So so far we talked about creating the lookup. I hope everybody knows how to do that. We talked about creating the lookup values, and we just showed that. Right? And the third piece of this is entering this cleanser in the match rule. So if I go back here to the data modeler again, here I have rule 1 with reference data management. And again, unfortunately, the the data modeler does not help you this, right? You know, put you into the advanced situation and you end up with a cleanse section that looks like this. I'm going to go back to the slide because I want to point out the very important parts that you may need to change. So in that cleanse section, right, we have the name dictionary cleanser, and here are the cleanse parameters. You know, first one is the RDM tenant ID. You know, this is my RDM tenant ID. You will not be able to get to it, so you're going to need your RDM instance in this. The second one is the RDM service URI, and in general, I think we have one of these globally, but this could change. So I want you to make sure that you have the right one for your particular instance. The third thing that could change is the RDM lookup type. I arbitrarily picked name dictionary 2. You could, you know, it could be name lookup. It could be, you know, Gino's name lookup. It could be company X's, you know, dictionary, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter as long as you identify it, okay? And you do want to identify it by the code. And then the last thing here is your auth instance. I authorize against auth.reltio.com. However, particularly I know in Europe, they use a different auth server, and I'd be willing to bet that our Asia Pac ones do too. So make sure you're using the right auth server. And then of course the mapping here, again, I'm doing this with, you know, all of this has been on the contact object. Oops. All of this has been on the contact object and the first name. You know, that's the only thing that's getting cleansed here. So if I go back to my UI, I'm dealing with contacts, right? So that's why I'm seeing this. Now, using this RDM matching, right, the advanced matching, if I go back, oops. So notice that in RDM here, I had rock matching the clash, right? And, you know, back to the comment about case and sensitivity, the clash here is lowercase. If I go look at my data, the clash here in uppercase is matching to a first name of drug, right? So this can work, you know, on, again, the only reason why drug and the clash are matching is because it's here in this lookup, right? This is not something that Reltio would normally, or any matching software, right, would normally think of as a match. The only reason why it's a match is because I've said it's a match. You know, the other example I have here is, yeah, I guess this is the reverse of it, right? Here's drug, you know, it's matching role, and again, back to the clash. And again, that's strictly because, you know, role, drug, the clash, they're all the same because of this configuration. Questions about that? Does that make sense?
It looks like it. I don't see any questions as of yet.
Okay, so let me point out something here that I personally found a little non-intuitive. Okay, when I look at the rules here, right, notice that in my data modeler, right, we've looked at 3 rules. We looked at rule 1 with the updated dictionary, and rule 1 RDM. And the, you know, obviously what we see in the UI is this, and the first one is standard dictionary, the second one says updated dictionary, and the third one says using RDM, right? Can you see that in at the end of these hovers, right? It says email updated dictionary at the end. This one says email standard dictionary. If I go look at this data and I look at the rules, right? The rule says standard dictionary. Second one says updated dictionary. And the third one says using RDM. Now, believe me, drug and the clash are not in the standard dictionary. Drug and the clash are not in the updated dictionary. Drug and roll are not in the standard dictionary or the updated dictionary, but those rules are firing. Now, when I first saw this, I thought this was an anomaly, right? So I put in a ticket and I did all the things we're supposed to do there. And it turns out that this is actually expected behavior. And the expected behavior, the way the terminology I'm using for it is that the effect of match cleansers is cumulative. Okay, so if I put in a cleanser on that first name field, it's going to affect all it's going to affect all the first name fields, but only for rules that have cleansers on the first name. So if I have a different rule that does not have a cleanser on the first name, then for contact, then the cleanser will not be in none of the cleansers will be in effect. But if I have a cleanser on the first name, then all of the cleansers that I have on the first name are in effect. And since these rules are identical, other than the cleanser, the effect of the cleanser is on all three of them, and all three of them match because the cleansers are working cumulatively. It's the union of the cleansing effects.
Yeah, so Gino, what I would clarify there is what's happening when the cleanser applies, it's generating the tokens for all the different cleansers. So that you're 100% correct that it's cumulative, but it's cumulative of the tokens that are generated. So does that sound correct?
It's cumulative it's cumulative of the tokens and the comparisons.
Okay.
Because Dan, if the to go back here, that if it was only tokens, then you would not see that the match rule successfully fired for the same standard dictionary, right? Because it would fail under the if it was only using the standard dictionary in this rule. But as we can see through the UI, this rule is actually successful.
Gotcha. So it's a union of all.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a union of all the cleansed values for that field.
Yeah, exactly. Now, at first I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. But then I realized that we have lots and lots of customers using these today, and nobody's had a problem with this. So maybe it's not such a big deal, right? I did create an AHA for this. Is it here? Yeah. So, in the ideas portal, there's MDMI 1337. If you think they should be separated, you can upvote this idea. But, like I said, today, we haven't had that be a problem for any of our customers. So, although intellectually, it doesn't seem to make sense, I think in the real world, it's not problematic. But I did create an AHA for it. So that's what I wanted to talk about today with the name cleansers. Are there any more questions?
Is there any? Gino, I did hear your old school phone. It felt like it was.
Yeah, it's pretty old school. I mean, like it's not a bell ringing. It's not that old school, but it's pretty old school.
I mean, that you have a phone.
Yeah, landline.
Not a cell phone, landline. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Chris. There's a phone ringing.
I live in
that?
San Francisco, and my lovely and charming wife insists that we have hardwire access to 911. So when the earthquake comes and the roof falls on me, I can dial out and say, Help.
I don't see any other questions.
Okay.
I'll give it a minute or two sometimes they'll just pop up. But with that said, we do have lots of shows coming up here in the future. So make sure you check it out. You'll be getting invites as usual, but feel free to forward those over to, your colleagues. And from there, I think we're done, Gino. Thank you so much. That was really good.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hope everyone
Thanks,
enjoyed it.
everyone.